sections. They're called arba'. Ruba' is a fourth, from arba'a, which is four, or arbi'a. And he basically puts in each section 10 books. So altogether there are 40 books. And 40 is a sacred number. And Imam al-Ghazali there's definitely an element of sacred numerology in Islam. Numerology is very dangerous, obviously, as most of you know, because there's a type of madness that goes with numerology, and you can go insane with numerology. People become obsessed. 23 is an obsessive number for some people in the West, and then gambling is a lot about numbers and lucky numbers, and people become very obsessive about numerology. But undeniably, 7 is a sacred number. And in reality, all numbers are sacred in that they are part of revelation, that they come from God, our ability to know mathematics. And Allah says one of the reasons that He even gave us the heavens was that we would learn how to reckon and arithmetic. So arithmetic is part of Allah's intention for human beings, and immense good has come out of arithmetic, also immense bad. So harakan mutanatti'un, they perish who go too deeply into things. But 40 is, Musa is promised that he will meet God. He's given 40 days to prepare to meet God in the Quran. Tamam al-ribat 40 layla. Al-ribat, ribat is when you go to defend the lands of the Muslims at the borders, and the murabit is one of the great rewards you get for doing that. And there is a hadith that indicates that it's 40 days that you need to go out there to become a murabit, to get the maqam. And the murabit has a high maqam, the fire won't touch him, many things. So tamam al-ribat 40 yawman or layla, 40 yawman. And then that's obviously where you get in Jama'at Tabligh the idea of khuruj for 40 days, right? Because they go out for 40 days. Same idea. Man ashara qawman 40 yawman sara minhum. If you live with the people 40 days, you'll become like them. So 40 is an important number. And he tells us that in the introduction that he's writing this book in order to rectify what he sees as a death that has occurred in the real sciences of the religion. And he divides the sciences into two branches, mu'amalat and mukashafat. The mukashafat are things that are ineffable. But he will do something, and I mentioned this earlier, he will do something throughout the Ihya in that he weaves these hints of the mukashafat throughout the Ihya. In some ways, in the ocean of the Ihya, it's like the white whale that will appear every once in a while and then disappear. That's what he does. He shows the head and then it sinks back in. And he will titillate you by this. He wants to draw you in. And he will say many times, enough said. I could say more, but let's leave it at this. And he said, if you do what I'm telling you to do, you will see like I have seen. So he will tell you this. And there is arguably a secret narrative in the Ihya that if you study it long enough, that will begin to emerge. I mean, I think that could be argued, that the Ihya does not give its secrets without, in the same way, and not in the same way, but similarly, the Quran does not reveal itself without great أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا لا أقسم بمواقع النجوم وإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم لا يمس إلا المطهرون. Only the purified will penetrate this book. They will be intimate with the book, because it's a same word that can be used for intimate relations with your spouse, that you will not be able to taste or experience this book without being purified. And this is what Imam al-Ghazali is arguing, that if you're willing to do this work, these things will begin to manifest. The Quran says that this book is like the stars, the Mawaqi' an-Najum. And Mawaqi' al-Nujum in the tafsir are the places of the constellations. You know, it's interesting because you know how many constellations there are? Well, you have north and south, but altogether, astronomers, there's 88 official constellations. Now, the 85th verse of the 85th surah in the Quran is Al-Buruj. It's the only time Buruj is really there. Al-Buruj, the constellations. And the first ayah is 3 words. Right? So it's 85th, first ayah. This is my little istinbat. It's just nukta. It's not, don't take this too far. But it's like little nukta. There's only 3 words in the first verse. وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ. The heavens have constellations. Allahu Akbar. So the Quran swears by the Mawaqi' al-Nujum, but also that means the positions of the verses in the Quran. Now we use وَبِالنَّجْمِ هُمْ يَهْتَدُونَ. By the heavens they are guided, by the stars. So the heavens up there are the guide for our outward journey in the land, to our destinations on land and sea. We use the stars. And even, and I mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning for those who've never heard this story. I was on a British Airways flight to England, and you know, they have that little screen in front of you. It tells you where you are. And I saw the planes over Denver, Colorado. I almost passed out because I was coming from San Francisco going to London. So I ran to the stewardess. I said, we're way off course. And she's like completely panics and literally almost, I think, runs and goes to the telephone, calls the cabin, you know. So she comes back and she says, no, it's okay. The captain said it's all right. So I go sit down. I'm wondering why we're going over Colorado. We should be over Alberta or something in Canada. And so a few minutes later she comes back and she says the captain would like to, this is before 9/11 when you could do these things. She said the captain would like to see you in the cabin. You know. So I go up there, come in, and it's one of those nice big cabins where they had actually a seat. And he says, have a seat. So I sit down, and it was at nighttime. And he says to me, are you a pilot? And I said, no. He said, how'd you know we were off course? And I said, well, I know the Great Circle route to Mecca. You go over close to the North Pole, and that's the way generally they travel to England from San Francisco by the Great Circle. So when I saw you're over Colorado, I'm just wondering like what's going on. He said, no, that's true because we actually have 2 routes. And he said, in the winter time we go over the North Pole, but in the summertime we go the Loxodromic route, which is a compass route. And he said, although it's longer, there's a jet stream that we get into, so we save time and fuel. So we actually get there faster with less fuel expended. And that's why we're going that way. And so then we had a conversation. And then I asked him, I said, listen, if you lost all the GPS and you lost your bearings, what would you do? And this is a true story. He turned out the lights in the cabin. The cabin went completely dark, and the stars all came out. And he just said, we've always got the stars. And that is the reality, that in the end, that's how we find our coordinates. It's celestial, by our outward journey and by our inward journey. So the Mawaqi' al-Nujum are the places of the verses, because the verses are nujum. And ashabi kan nujum, my companions are like stars. So stars are the things that you guide. They're the lights in the darkness. And so these verses are the things that guide you. But just like the night sky needs constant observation to learn it. You have to go out, and if you go out initially it looks all jumbled. Just like people who look at the Quran who aren't used to the Quran, they think, what is this book? It's changing order all the time. It's talking about this and it's talking about that. It's jumbled. A lot of Western people, that's their response to the Quran. They don't feel that there's patterns. But the more you penetrate the Quran, the more the patterns emerge. Just like as you look up into the night sky for the first time, it's just a jumble of stars. There's no patterns. But then suddenly you start, oh, hey, look at that one. That was there last night. And now it's a little different. And if you went out your whole life, you would see, you could work out, just like the ancients. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just study astronomy and learn from the people that went before you, just like a lot of what we can know about the Quran has already been done by the astronomers of the Quran, who are the mufassirun. They're the ones that went every night. I mean, they were all night with the Quran, reading it and thinking about it and reflecting on it, and all these patterns emerged. And that's why you have these great tafsirs like Fakhruddin al-Razi or Imam al-Biqai and many of them. Ibn al-Zubair, amazing book on Tanasib al-Ayat, how the ayat are all related to each other. So Imam al-Ghazali is basically, he tells us that you have the mukashafat, and these are things that we don't speak about, although he does speak about them. But he does in a way that is ambiguous and is only giving you a taste. And some of the isharat that show up in, I read an amazing ishara today from Sidi Ahmed Zarruq, who mentioned that Abu Abbas and Mursi said about يَهَبُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءِ إِنَاثًا وَيَهَبُ مَنْ يَشَاء إِنَاثًا وَيَهَبُ مَنْ يَشَاء الذُّكُورِ, that he gives some daughters. He said that's ibadah without the ilm. It's worship without knowledge. And then he gives some sons. He said that's knowledge without worship. And then he gives the two to some. يُزَوِّجُ. He gives them both ibadah and ilm. That's an ishara. It doesn't negate the outward of the meaning. Because if you negate the outward and say this is what it really means, you're a batini. But an ishara can come, these are insights that come.